Let's get started installing the TZ100 system. First, you'll need the following tools to install the system: safety glasses, tape measure, pencil, drill, 3/16" drill bit, Phillips screwdriver bit for drill, screws, non-marking soft face mallet. Now that you have all your materials, let's get started. For the first few steps, you'll need a pencil and tape measure. Simply measure and mark the ordered width of the shade at the top and the bottom of the window. Make sure the marks are centered to the opening. Great! Now measure up 3 inches from the top of the window on each side and place a mark. Hold the outside edge of the rear guide on your first mark and at the top of the rear guide on your second mark. Confirm the return pulleys at the bottom. Now check your measurements one last time. Next, grab your drill and screws and screw the rear guide into the wall using only the top and bottom mounting holes that are provided. Install the opposite rear guide, making sure they are parallel and square. Once you've confirmed they are parallel and square, go ahead and finish installing screws into all of the remaining mounting holes. Now place the back of the headbox assembly up onto the rear guides. The headbox assembly comes with 4 pre-drilled holes in the back of the end cap. Confirm the hole locations work for your situation, and then complete the holes by drilling them through the back of the headbox assembly. Go ahead and screw the headbox to the wall, making sure it is flush with the sides and back of the rear guides. It is important that the screws go through the end cap and the headbox, and not just the headbox. Fantastic work so far! You're now ready to install the shade. As you begin installing the shade, make sure to route the power cord through the grommet and pull out the slack. Install the shade by inserting the idle end and then the motor end. Once the motor plate is mounted properly, install the 2 screws. With the hem bar retracted, feed the tension cable into the hem bar. This can be done from either end. If you look at the end cap on the hem bar, there is a slot. Insert the cable in the top of the slot. The cable will feed through the hem bar and is guided out the other side. Now pull the cable down and around the return pulley going from the inside of the system towards the outside of the system, then back up running the cable behind the diverting pulley and then out to the front of the system. Do this to both sides, making sure the cables hanging out are about the same length. Go ahead and connect power to your shade, and voila! You are now ready to tension the shade. If you have a standard 4-wire motor, you will need to use a shade tester. Use the tester to run the shade in the needed direction following the rest of the steps, setting the limits on the motor head. We have a 3-wire RTS motor, so we are going to be using an RTS remote. Put the shade into programming mode by pushing and holding up and down arrows simultaneously on the remote until the shade jogs. Next, retract the shade, and with your hands guide the hem bar into the headbox so that it binds between the roller shade and headbox without damaging the fabric. Continue to turn the motor in the same direction until the motor stalls. Confirm it stalled by letting go of the button and then pushing it again a few times until the motor no longer moves. These same steps would be done using a shade tester if your system has a standard 4-wire motor with limit switches. Make sure the motor completely stalled and didn't hit a limit. Now rotate the motor in the opposite direction by either 1 or 2 revolutions, depending on the size and orientation of the system you're installing. Locate the cable entry hole. If you don't see it, continue rotating the motor in the same direction until you find it, making sure not to exceed the required revolutions. Insert the cable through the entry hole and into the grip lock contained within the take-up spool. The cable will push in approximately 2 inches and then stop. At the other end, remove the slack in the cable. Confirm the cable is properly installed around both return and deflection pulleys, then cut the cable either 18 or 22 inches long depending again on the size and orientation of the system, measuring from the bottom of the end cap down. Take that end of the cable and insert it into the entry hole until it stops, again about 2 inches. Now rotate the motor to deploy the fabric. Confirm again that the cables are running properly around both the return and deflection pulleys. Run the shade down a couple feet to make sure the cable is winding up next to each other on the spools, starting on the outside, winding in, without any gaps. Set your limits by moving the shade to your desired top limit. Push and hold the down arrow and My button simultaneously until the shade starts to run down. Stop the shade with the My button and then move the shade to the desired bottom limit. Press and hold the up arrow and My button simultaneously until the shade starts running up. The shade will automatically stop at the top limit. Now press and hold the My button until the shade jogs. Then turn the remote over. Using a paper clip, press and hold the programming button until the shade jogs. For setting limits with a standard 4-wire motor, follow the arrows on the motor head and adjust the shade limits from there. To install the side lock, move the hem bar to the midpoint of the system and slide the plastic guides onto the fabric. Then clip the side lock onto the rear guides. Do this to both sides. We're almost finished! For the next step, place the cover up to the shade and snap the cover into position and install the supplied screw at each end of the head box. Next, attach the front guide to the rear guide by lining it up with the rear guide and using a non-marking soft face mallet, gently tap the face of the front guide along the length of the guide to attach them together. Install the supplied locking screw on the top of each front guide. Congratulations! You've now successfully installed the TZ100 system. Great work, and thanks for watching.